The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
And we continue on Hannity with former Alaska Governor, Fox News contributor, Governor Sarah Palin. All right, Governor, let me show you from last night. These are what we call the Breitbart tapes, the very tapes that Andrew Breitbart talked about at CPAC. And he used the term, it's time to vet this president. And he showed a tape of the president with a controversial professor, you mentioned in the last segment, Derek Bell, introduces him, open your hearts and mind to Professor Derek Bell, and then afterwards he hugs him. Let's roll the tape.
Open up your hearts and your minds to the words of Professor Derek Bell.
All right. What does this tell you based on what we have now learned about Professor Bell in the last couple of days, his controversial views? Even Professor Gates questioned him on his issue of not recognizing anti-Semitism. What does it tell you about this bigger picture of President Obama and his, really, the only way I describe it is his radical associates?
What this tells us is that it is a tragedy that the media did not do its job in vetting Barack Obama in 2008. And here, this is belated vetting of Barack Obama, but it must be done. People must be aware of his radical past, his radical associations even today. Look at who he's chosen to be his czars. He has chosen the most radical of the radicals in certain areas of expertise, Sean. That is who is running this country today. And it is no wonder that people are starting to feel less and less certain about the future of America, the future of our economy, the future of any opportunity that we have to be energy independent, the future of the sovereignty of the United States of America based on who it is that Barack Obama surrounds himself with today. He has chosen these people because what went into his thinking through those college years, through years probably before his college years and his profession as a community organizer, what went into his thinking was this philosophy of radicalism based on the people whom he chose to be around. He has chosen now to help lead this country more of these radicals.
You know, we knew about in 2008, and I first interviewed Reverend Wright on Hannity and Combs in March of 2007. And then we went into what black liberation theology is, what he writes about in his book. We have the tape. White folks' greed runs a world in need. He says that on tape. I did a little blow. He says that in his book. All of these things. But he hung out 20 years with Wright. Ayers, Dorn, Flager, Acorn, Alinsky, community organizing. Now we have another sort of bit of information about what has, I guess, created the foundation of what Barack Obama believes. Now that he's governed for over 3 years, what do you glean from this? What do you take from this about the president, who he was and who he is, and what we would have in the future if he was reelected?
Right. Well, what we can glean from this is an understanding of why we are on the road that we are on. Again, it's based on what went into his thinking, being surrounded by radicals. He is bringing us back, Sean, to days that you can harken back to days before the Civil War, when, unfortunately, too many Americans mistakenly believed that not all men were created equal. And it was the Civil War that began the codification of the truth that here in America, yes, we are equal and we all have equal opportunities, not based on the color of your skin. You have equal opportunity to work hard and to succeed and to embrace the opportunities, God-given opportunities to develop resources and work extremely hard and, as I say, to succeed. Now, it has taken all these years for many Americans to understand that gravity, that mistake that took place before the Civil War and why the Civil War had to really start changing America. What Barack Obama seems to want to do is go back to before those days when we were in different classes based on income, based on color of skin. Why are we allowing our country to move backwards instead of moving forward with that understanding that, as our charters of liberty spell out for us, we are all created equally?
You know, this tape where he introduces Professor Bell, it's interesting. In 2011, another professor at Harvard, Professor Ogletree, actually played this tape, and then he says this at the end of it. And I want to play it for you, and I got a question out of it.
Now, what makes this so interesting when you think about it, of course, we hid this throughout the 2008 campaign, so no, I don't care if they find it now, but right, because it just...
Of course we hid it. And I want you, if you can, Governor, bring us behind the scenes of the 2008 campaign. I mean, I was frankly surprised that the campaign wouldn't bring these issues up about these controversial associations. And many people even warning me not to do it, that I was going to hurt my career, et cetera. So you wouldn't believe the things that was said to me by just vetting the president or then candidate Obama. What was it like for you behind the scenes? Are these things, we keep hearing reports, you wanted to bring these things up. Is that true?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Sean, you, Rush Limbaugh, Mark Levin, Laura Ingraham, there were a select few of you out there trying to bring to light what it was that Barack Obama stood for and what his radical associations and even his voting record as a senator in Chicago, what it represented. And yet the rest of the media, it seemed like, to too great a degree, didn't want to go there with you guys. So maybe you felt like you were, you know, the lone voice calling out in the wilderness for America to wake up. But in the campaign itself, you'll have to ask people like Steve Schmidt, who I think shackled us as candidates, both John McCain and myself, and not allowing us to get out there and to start talking more about the truth about what Barack Obama, what he meant even when he promised radically to fundamentally transform America, what in the world he had in mind. Now we see what he had in mind for us, but it was unfortunate that we weren't able to speak more about that.
What do you think Professor Ogletree is saying? Oh, of course we hid these. What does that mean? Does the president know that they were hiding these tapes? And, you know, because the left went crazy today because we aired them last night. It's on Breitbart.com right now. If they had to hide them, what were they hiding?
Yeah, don't you wonder if Barack Obama as a candidate there was just, you know, crossing his fingers, hoping that some of this stuff wouldn't come out. And he probably is still doing that today. Well, and he probably is doing the same thing today, hoping that more doesn't come out about his background and about what went into his thinking, about why it was that he would believe that some socialist ideas that have failed in the old world, and that is why you see failures in some of these European countries, why he could apply those principles and policies to America, and that somehow we would succeed, even though history tells us that you will fail under some of the regime that it seems like Barack Obama wants to emulate.
Governor, thanks as always for being with us. Appreciate it. And we have a lot coming up.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.